In this video, I'm going to show step by step how to make a Mortise and Tenon joint using a benchtop router table. I chose to use a Bosch RA1171 for two reasons. First, dual dust extraction, but most importantly, with the Bosch router comes a built-in, easy to adjust router lift. For this entire process, I'll be using a 3/8 straight cut router bit. First step is to mark out the Mortise. My piece is 3/4 inch wide, so I mark it at 3/4 and 2 3/4. Extend the markings across the piece. And carry them over to the top. Next, mark out the tenon. The bottom of the tenon should be 1 inch deep, and I mark 3/4 from each side. It's very important that both pieces are marked precisely center. Line the two pieces up and make sure the edges are square and all the lines line up with each other. Setting the bit in exact center is very important. Use a scrap piece to line up the bit and double check it by measuring to the far side of the bit. Before we cut the Mortise, we will need to build a stop jig. I use StarBond CA glue because it cures in seconds and is ready to go. Just apply glue to one side and accelerate to the other and stick it together. You don't have to build your jig in this exact way, whatever works. Once your jig is built, set the stop 2 3/4 away from the leading edge of the bit. This will be the back of your Mortise. Make sure your jig is square and clamp down the stop. On a full-size table, we would use 2 stops on either end, but on a smaller tabletop router table, put a piece of tape down and using a square, mark either side of the bit. These lines will be your start and stop lines. Now we cut the Mortise. Line up the first line on the piece with the first line on the tape. Push down and push the piece through to the stop. You should notice the back line on the piece lines up with the back line on the tape. Raise the bit 1/4 inch at a time until it reaches 1 inch and make the final pass. Now we cut the tenon. Set the fence to cut 1 inch depth from the bit. Use a scrap and confirm the depth. Again, we will build a jig to help push the tenon piece through to keep it square. Your jig does not have to look exactly like mine, just be tall enough to push both the flat and the shoulder part of the tenon through. Next, lay the board flat and cut the tenon. Make the cut against the fence first. Here you can check both the depth and the distance of the cut. Remove the remaining material until the side is completely flat. Flip the board over and repeat the cut on the other side. Make sure you only remove small amounts at a time and check fit as you go. To cut the shoulders, stand both the jig and the tenon piece on the side. And with the fence in the same spot, remove the sides of the tenon. Start at 1/4 inch and remove both sides. Because we're only using a 3/8 router bit, start at 1/4 inch and raise 1/4 of an inch at a time until you have cut 3/4 of an inch from each side of the tenon. You should be left with a 2-inch wide tenon at the end. It should look like this and is almost done. You'll notice the tenon is square and the mortise is round. Take a chisel or a sander and round the corners of the tenon. Doesn't matter if you take off a little too much, just make sure you get all the burrs from the side. Here it is all finished. No daylight coming through the joint, edges are all square, and pulls apart with a little bit of effort by hand, but it's nice and tight. Thank you for watching.